to a very special episode of Oscar's English World. My name is Mr. Oscar, and I'm an English teacher from Hong Kong. And today, boy, are you in for a treat. I'm going to recite the entirety of Book 1 of Paradise Lost, which consists of 798 lines. And in order to prove the authenticity of my recitation, I'm going to wear a mask. Do feel free to leave comments in the comment section below if you spot any mistakes. Let's begin, shall we? Paradise Lost by John Milton. Of man's first disobedience, and the fruit of their forbidden tree whose mortal taste brought death into the world and all our woe, with loss of Eden to one greater man, restores and regain the blissful seat. Sing, heavenly muse, that on the secret top of Oreb of Sinai didst inspire, that shepherd first taught his chosen seed, in the beginning how the heavens and earth rose out of chaos. Or of Sion hill delight thee more, and silver brook that flow fast by the oracle of God, I thence invoke thy aid to my fanciless song, that with no middle flight intends to soar about the iron mount while it pursues things unattempted yet in prose or rhyme. And chiefly thou, spirit, that dost prefer before temples the upright heart and pure, instruct me, for thou knowest, thou from the first was present, and with mighty wings outspread, dove-like says brooding on the vast abyss, and mayst pregnant. What in me is dark, illumine. What is low, raise and support, that to the height of this great argument I may assert eternal providence and justify the ways of God to men. Say first, for heaven hides nothing from thy view, nor the deep tract of hell, save as what calls our grandparents in that happy state, favoured of heaven so highly, to fall from the Creator and transgress his will. For one restraint, laws of the world besides, who first seduced him to the foul fault, the infernal serpent. He was whose guiles, stirred with envy and revenge, deceived the mother of mankind. What time his pride had cast him out from heaven, with all his host of rebel angels, by whose aid, aspiring to set himself in glory above his peers, he trusted to have equalled the Most High if he opposed, and with ambitious aim against the throne and monarchy of God, raised impious war in heaven and battle proud, with vain attempt. Him the almighty power hurled headlong flaming from the ethereal sky, with hideous ruin and combustion, down to bottomless perdition, there to dwell in adamantine chains and pain of fire, who durst defy the omnipotent to arms. 9 times the space that measures day and night to mortal men, he and his horrid crew lay vanquished, rolling on the fiery gulf, confounded though immortal. But his doom reserved him to more wrath, for now the thought both lost happiness and lasting pain torments him. Round he throws his baleful eyes, then with his huge affliction and dismay, makes with obdurate pride and steadfast hate. At once, as far as angels can, he feels his dismal situation waste and wild, a dungeon horrible from all sides round, as one great furnace flamed, and yet from those flames no light, but rather darkness visible, served only to discover regions of sorrow, sights of woe, doleful shades, where peace and rest can never dwell, hope never comes that comes to all, but torture without end still urges, and a fiery deluge, fed with ever-burning sulphur, unconsumed. Such place eternal justice hath prepared for those rebellious. Here their prison ordained in utter darkness, and their portion set, as twice removed from God as light from heaven, as from the centre, thrice to the utmost pole. Oh, how unlike the place from whence they fell! There the companions of his fall, overwhelmed by floods and whirlwinds of tempestuous fire, he soon discerns, and, weltering by his side, one next himself in power and next in crime, long after known in Palestine and named Beelzebub, to whom the arch-enemy, and thence in heaven called Satan, with bold words, breaking the harlot silence, thus began. If thou be as he, but oh, how fallen, how changed from him who in the happy realms of light, clothed with transcendent brightness, didst outshine myriads so bright. If he who mutual league, united thoughts and counsels, equal hope and hazard, in the glorious enterprise joined with me once, now misery have joined in equal ruin. And what bid thou seest, from what height fallen, so much the stronger proved he with his thunder. And to them who knew the force of those dire arms, yet not for those know what the potent victor in his rage can else inflict, do I repent or change, though change in our lustre, the fixed mind and high disdain from sense of injured merit, that with the mightiest raised me to contend, and with fierce contentions brought along innumerable force of spirits armed, the dust is like as rain, and me preferring his utmost power with their first power opposed, and dubious battle on the plains of heaven, and shook his throne. What though the field be lost, or is not lost, the unconquerable will, study of revenge and mortal hate? And what is else not to be overcome? Courage never to submit nor yield, and what is else not to be overcome? That glory never shall his wrath or might extort from me, to bow and sue for grace with suppliant knee, and deify his power, who so far from the terror of his arms so late doubted his empire. They were low indeed, they were in ignominy and shame beneath his downfall, since by faith the strength of gods and this imperial substance cannot fail, in arms not worse, in foresight much advanced, we with more successful hopeless solve, to wage by force of guile eternal war, irreconcilable to his grand foe, who now triumphs, and in the excess of joy, so reigning hosts the tyranny of heaven. So spake the apostate angel, vaunting aloud, but wrecked from deep despair, and him thus answered his bold compeer. O Prince, O Chief of many throned powers, that led thy embattled seraphim to war, under thy conduct and in dreadful deeds, fearless, endangered heaven's perpetual king, and put to proof his high supremacy, whether upheld by strength, or chance, or fate. Too well I see and rue this dire event, that with sad overthrow and foul defeat have lost us heaven, and all the heavenly essences, and horrible destruction lay thus low, as far as gods and heavenly essences can perish, for the mind remains invincible, and figure soon returns, and happy state here's swallowed up in endless misery. But what if the all-conqueror, of whom I now of force believe almighty, since no less than such could overpower such force as ours, have left us a spirit and strength entire, strongly to suffer and support our pains, that we might so suffice his vengeful ire, or do mightier service as his thralls, by right of war whether his business be, here in the heart of hell to work in fire, or do his errands in the gloomy deep? What then can then avail though yet we feel strength undiminished, or eternal being to undergo eternal punishment? Wheretofore with speedy words the archfiend replied, Fallen cherub, to be weak is miserable, doing or suffering, but of this be sure, to do aught good never will be our task, but ever to do ill our so delight, as being contrary to his high will whom we resist. If then his providence out of our evils seek to bring forth good, our labour must be to pervert that end, and out of good still to find means of evil, which ofttimes may succeed to us perhaps, shall grieve him, and disturb his inmost counsels from their destined aim. But see, the angry victor have recalled his ministers of vengeance and pursuit, back to the gates of hell the sulphurous hail shot after us in storm, that overblown from the precipices have the fiery surge on the precipice of heaven have laid us falling, and the thunder, winged with red lightning and impetuous rage, perhaps has spent his shafts, and ceases now to bellow through the vast and boundless deep. Let us not skip the occasion where the scorn of satiate fear yielded from our foe. See as thou yon chilly plain for long and wild, the seat of desolation, void of light, save what the glimmering of these livid flames cast pale and dreadful. Thither let us tend from off the tossing of these fiery waves, if any rest can harbour there, and then reassembling our afflicted powers consult how we may henceforth most offend our enemy, how overcome this dire calamity, what reinforcement we may gain from hope, if not, what resolution from despair. So Satan, talking to his nearest mate, with head uplift about the wave, and eyes that sparkling blazed. His other parts besides, prone on the flood, lay floating many a rude, in bulk as huge as named monstrous size, Titanian or earthborn, that warred on Jove, Bearless or Typhon, whom the den of ancient Tarsus held, or the sea beast Leviathan, which god of war his works created huge as to swim the ocean stream. Him happily slumbering from the Norway foam, the pilot of some small night-floundered skiff, deeming some island off a seaman tell, with fixed anchor on the scaly rind, moors by his side under the lee, while wishing morn delays. So stretched out huge in length the archfiend lay, chained on the burning lake, nor ever thence had heaved his head, while the will and high permission of all-ruling heaven met him at large in his own dark designs, that with reiterated crimes he might heap on himself damnation, while he sought evil for others, but enraged might see how all his malice served but to bring forth infinite goodness, grace and mercy shown to men by him seduced, but on himself treble confusion, wrath and vengeance poured. Forthwith upright he rears from off the pool, his mighty stature driven backward slope their pointing spires, and leave in the mist a horrid veil. Then with expanded wings he steers his flight, aloft, incumbent upon the dusty air, there felt unusual weight, till on dry land he lights, if it will land that ever burn with solid, as a land with liquid fire. And such appeared in hue as when the force of subterranean wind transports a hill, torn from Palaris, or the shattered side of thundering Aetna, whose combustibles and fewed entrails, thence conceiving fire, sublime with mineral fury aid the winds, and leave a sane bottom all involved with stench and smoke. Such resting found the so unblessed feet. Him followed his next mate, both glorying to escape the Stygian flood as gods, and by their own recovered strength, not by the sovereigns of supernal power. Is this the region, the soil, the clime? Said then the lost archangel. This is seat we must change for heaven, this mournful gloom for that celestial light. Be it so, since here now sovereign can dispose and bid what shall be light. Farthest from him is best, whom reason of equal force have made supreme above his equals. Farewell, happy fields, where joy forever dwells. Hail horrors, hail infernal world, and thou profoundest hell receive thy new possessor, one who brings a mind not to be changed by place or time. The mind is his own place, and in itself can make a heaven of hell, a hell of heaven. What matter where, if I be still the same, and what I should be, but less than he whom thunder made greater? Here at least we shall be free. The Almighty have not built here for his envy, will not drive us hence. Here we shall reign secure, and in my choice, to reign is worth ambition, though in hell. Better to reign in hell than serve in heaven. But wherefore let us then, our faithful friends, the associates and co-partners of our loss, lie thus astonished on the oblivious pool, and call them not to shelve us their part in this unhappy mansion, or once more rallied arms to try what may be yet regained in heaven, or what more lost in hell. Thus so Satan spake, and him thus answered Beelzebub. Leaders of those armies bright, which but the omnipotent none could have foiled, if once we hear their voice, their liveliest pledge of hope in fears and dangers heard so oft, on the perilous edge of battle when it raged in all assaults, their surest signal, they will soon resume new courage and revive, though now they lie groveling and prostrate on yon dreary lake of fire. As we erstwhile astounded and amazed, no wonder, fall in such a pernicious height. He scarce had ceased when superior fiend was moving toward the shore, his ponderous shield ethereal temper, massy large and round, behind him cast. The broad circumference hung on his shoulders like the moon, who saw through optic glass the Tuscan artist's views at evening, from the top of Fessel or in Feldano to descry new lands, rivers or mountains in a spotty globe. His spear, to equal which the tallest pines of Norwegian pines stood on Norwegian hills, were but a wand. He walked with to support uneasy steps over the burning mall, not like the steps on heaven's assure, and the Torah climb smote and sore besides, fought with fire. Nevertheless he so endured, till on the inflamed sea stood and called his legions, angel forms that lay entranced, thick as autumnal leaves that strew the brooks in Felambrosa, or the Etrurian shades, high overarch embowered, or scattered siege afloat, whose fierce winds Orient armed have vexed the Red Sea coast, whose waves overthrew Boreas and his Methian chivalry, while with perfidious hatred they pursued the sojourners of Goshen, who beheld from the safe shore the floating carcasses and broken chariot wheels. So thick bestrewn, abject and lost lay these, covering the flood, under amazement of the hideous change. He called so loud that all the whole deep of hell resounded. Princes, warriors, potentates, warriors, the flower of heaven, once yours, now lost, if such astonishment as this can seize eternal spirits, or have ye chosen this place out of the toil of battle to repose your wearied virtue, for the ease you find to slumber here, as in the folds of heaven? Or in this abject posture have ye sworn to adore the conqueror, who now behoves cherub and seraph rolling on the flood, with scattered arms and ensigns, till anon his swift pursuer from heaven's gate discern the advantage, and descending tread us down, thus drooping, and with laned thunderbolts transfix us to the bottom of this gulf. Awake, arise, or be forever fallen. They heard, and were bashed, and up they sprung upon the wing, as when men want to watch, on duty sleeping found by whom they dread, rouse and bestir themselves so well awake. Nor did they not perceive this evil plight in which they were, or the fierce pains not feel, yet to their generous voice they soon obeyed innumerable. As when the potent rod of Ammon's son in Egypt's evil day waved round the coast, up called a pitchy cloud of locusts, warping on the eastern wind, that over the realm of impious Pharaoh hung like night, and darkened all the land of Nile. So numberless were those bad angels seen, hovering on wing under the cope of hell, twixt upper, nether, and surrounding fires, till, a signal given, the uplifted spear, the Greek sultan waving to direct the course, on even bounds down they light, and fill all the plain. A multitude like which the populous north poured never from her frozen loins to pass, Rhine or the Danube, or the barbarous sons, came like a deluge from the south, and spread beneath Gibraltar and the Libyan sands. Forthwith from every squadron in each band, the heads and leaders thither haste where stood, their great commander, godlike shapes and forms, excelling human princely dignities, and powers that durst in heaven sat on thrones. Though of their names in heavenly records now be no memorial, blotted out and razed by the rebellion from the books of life, nor had they yet among the sons of Eve got them new names, till, wandering over the earth, through God's high sovereigns and the trial of men, by falsities and lies the greatest part, of mankind they left by thought to build, of mankind they corrupted to forsake, God the Creator, the invisible glory of him that made them, to transform oft to the image of a brute, adorned by gay religions for pomp and gold, and devils to adore for deities. Then were they known to men by various names, and various labels, and various names, and idols through the heathen world. Say, Muse, the names then known, who first, who last, roused from the slumber on the fiery couch, till at the great emperor's call came singly where he stood on the bare strand, while the promiscuous crowd stood yet aloof. The chief of those who from the pit of hell, roaming to seek their prey on earth, durst fix their seats long after next the seat of God, their altars by his altar, gods adored amongst the nations round, and durst abide Jehovah thundering out of Sion, throned between the cherubim, yea, often placed within his sanctuary itself the shrines, abominations, and and with the darkness, abominations, and with the darkness dust to front his light. First, Moloch, horrid king, besmeared with blood of human sacrifice and parents' tears, the often noise of drums and timbrels loud, their children's cries unheard that pass through fire. To his grim idol, him the Ammonite worshipped in Rabbah and watery plain, in Argob and in Basin, to the stream in utmost Arnon. Nor content with such audacious neighborhood, the wisest heart of Solomon he led by fraud to build his temple right against the temple of God on the opprobrious hill, and made his grove the pleasant valley of Hinnom to the thence, and black Gehenna called the type of hell. Next, Chemos, the obscene dread of Moab's sons, in Ariel and in Basin, to the southmost Arbum, to Heshbon and Heronium, Sion's realm, beyond the flowery dell Simna clad with vines, to Eliah and the asphaltic pool. Peor his other name, when he enticed Israel and Sittim from the march from Nile, to do him wanton rites which cost him woe. Yet thence his lustful orgies he enlarged, even to the hill of scandal, and by the grove of Moloch homicide, lust hard by hate, till good Josiah driven thence to hell. After these came they who from the bordering flood of old Euphrates to break the parts, Egypt from Syrian ground, had general names like Balaam or Ashtoreth, for spirits when they please can either sex assume, or both, so off, and uncompounded is their essence pure, nor tied or manacled by joint or limb, nor founded on the brittle strength of bones like cumbrous flesh, dilated, condensed, bright or obscure, can execute the airy purposes, and works of love or enmity fulfill. For those the race of Israel oft forsook the living strength, and unfrequent left his righteous altar, bowing lowly down to bestial gods, for which their heads, as low bow down battle, sunk before the spear of despicable foes. Next in troop came Ashtoreth, whom the Phoenicians called a straight, queen of heaven with crescent horns, to whose nightly image by the moon Sidonian virgins pay the thousand songs. In sign also not unsung, as where stood in the temple on the offensive mountain, built by the uxorious king, whose heart, though large, beguiled by fair idolatresses, and fell to idols foul. Thamus came next behind, whose annual wound in Lebanon lured the Syrian damsels to lament his fate, in amorous ditties on a summer's day, while smooth Adonis from his native rock ran purple to the sea, supposed with blood of Thamus yearly wounded, whose love tale infected Sion's daughters with like heat, whose wanton passions on the sacred porch Ezekiel saw, and by his vision led, his eyes surveyed the dark idolatries of alienated Judah. Next came one who mourned in earnest, when the captive ark maimed his brute image, head and hands lopped off, in his own temple by the groundsel edge, where he fell flat and shamed his worshippers. Dagon his name, sea monster, upward men and downward fish, yet had his temple high reared in the Sotis, dread through the coast of Palestine, and Gath and Ascalon, and Icarian Gaze's fronted bounds. Him vaughted women, whose delightful seat was fair Damascus, on the fertile banks of Abner and Pharpar loosest streams. Him also against the house of God was bold, a leopard once he lost and gained a king, Ahaz the sottish conqueror, whom he drew God's altar to disparage and displace, for one of Syrian mode, whereon to burn his odious offering, to adore the gods whom he hath vanquished. Next came a troop whom, under names of O renown, Oasis, Isis, Orus, and the train, with monstrous shapes and sorceries abused, fanatic Egypt and priests to seek, their wandering gods disguised in brutish forms rather than human. Nor did Israel escape the infection, when the board go composed the coffin Olip, when the rebel king doubled that sin in Bethel and in Dan, likening his maker to the grazed ox, Jehovah, whom in one night when he passed from Egypt marching, equaled one stroke, both of firstborn and all bleating gods. Belial came last, than whom a spirit more lewd fell not from heaven, or more gross to love, fights for itself. To him no temple stood or altar smoked, yet who yet who more oft than he, in temples and altars, when the priest turns atheist, as did Eli's sons, who fill with lust and violence the house of God. In courts and palaces he also reigns, and in luxurious cities, when the night of riot ascends, sounds of riot ascends about the loftiest noise of riot ascends about the loftiest towers, in Indian outrage, when night darkens the streets, then wander forth the sons of Belial, flowing with insolence and wine, witness the street in Sodom, or the night in Gibbeth, when the hospitable door exposed a matron to avoid worse rape. These were the prime in order and in might. The rest were long to tell, though far renowned. The Ionian gods of Jephtha's issue held, gods, yet confessed later than heaven and earth, their boasted parents. Titan, heaven's firstborn, with his enormous brood and birthright seized by younger Saturn, he from mightier Jove, his own and Leah's son, like measure found, so Jove usurping reigned. These first in Cretan either know, thence on the snowy top of cold Olympus ruled the middle air, the highest heaven, or in the Daphne cliff, or in Dodona, through all the bounds of Doric land, or of Saturn ode, flat over Adria to the Hesperian fields, and over the Celtic Rome the utmost isles. All these and more came flocking, but with looks downcast and damp, yet such wherein appeared obscure some glimpse of joy to have found the chief, not in despair, to have found themselves not lost in loss itself, which on his countenance cast like doubtful hue. But he, his wonted pride soon recollecting, with high words that bore semblance of worth, not substance, gently raised his fainting courage, and dispelled their fears. Then strict commands that at the warlike sound of trumpets loud and clarions be upreared his mighty standard, that proud honor claimed, as Cecil as his right a cherub tall, who forthwith from the glittering staff unfurled his imperial ensign, which, full high advanced, shone like a meteor streaming to the wind, of gems and golden lustre rich and blazed, seraphic arms and trophies, all the while sonorous matter-blowing martial sounds, at which the universal host upsent a shout that tore hell's concave and beyond, and frighted the reign of chaos and night. All in a moment through the gloom was seen 10,000 banners rise into the air, with Orient colours waving, with them rose a forest huge of spears, and throwing helms appeared, and serried shield in thick array of depth immeasurable. Anon they move in perfect phoenix to Dorian mood, of flutes and soft recorders such as raised to heights of noblest temper, heroes owed, arming to battle, and instead of rage, deliberate valor breathed, firm and unmoved, or with dread of death to fear, or dread of death to flight or foul retreat, nor wanting power to mitigate or assuage with solemn touches and troubled thoughts, and chase anguish and doubt and sorrow and fear and pain from mortal or immortal minds. Thus they, breathing united force with fixed thought, moved on in silence to soft pipes that charmed the painful steps of the burnt soil. And now, advanced in view they stand, a horrid front, of dreadful length and dazzling arms appeared, in guise of warriors owed, and with ordered spear and shield, awaiting what the mighty chief had to impose. He through the armed files darts his experienced eye, and soon traverse the whole battalion fuse their orders due, their visages and stature as of gods. Their number lost his sums, and now his heart distends with pride, glorious, for never since created men met such embodied force as, named with these, could merit more than the small infantry, warden by cranes, or on the giant brood that fought at Thebes and Elam, of Phlegra, and the heroic race were joined that fought at Thebes and Elam, on each side mixed with auxiliary gods, and what resounds in fable romance of youth's sons, begun with British and Armoric knights, and all whose sins, baptized or infidel, joiced in asper mountain bell, in Damascus or Morcal, or Trebizond, or whom Bacita sent from Afric's shore, when Charlemagne with all his peerage fell by Frontabria. Thus far these beyond compare mortal prowess, yet observe the dread commander. He above the rest, in shape and gesture proudly eminent, stood like a tower. His form had yet not lost all original brightness, nor appeared less an archangel ruined, and the excess of glory obscured, as when the sun new risen looks through the horizontal misty air, shone of his beams, or from behind the moon in dim eclipse. Disastrous twilight sheds on half the nations, and with fear of change perplexes monarchs, darkened so, yet shone above them all the archangel. But his face, deep scars of thunder had entrenched, care set on his faded cheek, but under shades of dauntless courage and considerate pride, waiting revenge, cruel as I, because sighs of remorse and passion, to behold the fells of his crime, his followers rather, far other ones beheld in bliss, condemned forever now to have the lot and pang, millions of spirits for his fault in mercy of heaven, or from eternal splendors flung for his revolt. Yet faithful how they stood, their glory withered, as when heaven's fire have scathed the forest oaks and mountain pines, of sing atop the stately grove, though bare, stands on the blasted heath. He now prepared to speak, where the double ranks they bend from wing to wing, and half enclosed him round with all his peers. Attention held the mute, thrice he essayed, and thrice, in spite of scorn, tears, such as angels weep, burst forth, and words interwoven sighs found out their way. O myriads of immortal spirits! O powers matchless, bow of the Almighty! If their strife was not inglorious, though the event was dire, as this place testifies, and this dire change hateful to utter, or with a power of mind foreseeing and presaging, from the depth of knowledge, past or present, could have feared, how such united force of gods, how such as stood like these, could ever know repulse. For who can yet believe, though after loss, that all these puissant legions, whose exile have failed to empty heaven, shall fail to reascend, self-raised, and repossess their native seat? For me be witness all the host of heaven, if counsels different and dangers shunned by me, have lost our hope. But he who reigns monarch in heaven, till then is one secure, set on his throne, upheld by no repute, consent, or custom, and his regal state put forth in full, but still the strength concealed, which tempted our attempt, and wrought our fall. Henceforth his might we know, and know our own, so as not either to provoke nor dread. New war provoked, our better part remains, to work in close design, here in the heart of hell, to work in fire, by force, and by what force? At length from us may find, by force have overcome, but half his foe. Space may produce new worlds whereof so rife, there went a flame in heaven that he ere long intended to create, and then therein plant a generation whom his choice regard should favor equal to the sons of heaven. Thither, if but to pry, shall be our first eruption. Thither or elsewhere, for this infernal pit shall never hold celestial spirits in bondage, nor the abyss long after darkness cover. But his thoughts full counsel must mature, peace is despaired, for who can think submission? War then, war, open or understood, must be resolved. He spake, and to confirm his words, out flew millions of flaming swords, drawn from the thighs of mighty cherubim. The sudden blaze far round illuminated hell. Highly they raged against the highest, and fierce with grasped arms clashed on their sounding shields the din of war, hurling defiance against the fault of heaven. There stood a hill not far, his grisly top belched fire and rolling smoke, the rest entire shone with a glossy scurf, undoubted sigh that in his womb was hidden metallic ore, the work of sulphur. Thither, winged with speed, a nearest brigade hastened, as when pioneers of spade and pickaxe armed, have forerun the royal camp to trench a field, or cast a rampart. Mammon led them on. Mammon, the least erected spirit that fell from heaven, for even heaven his looks and thoughts were always downward bent, admiring more the riches of heaven's pavement, trodden gold, than aught diviner holy else enjoyed in vision beatific. By him first, and men also, and by suggestion taught, ransacked the center, and with impious hands rivaled the boughs of the Mother Earth. Him with his crew, boughs of Mother Earth, him his crew, opened into the hill a spacious wound, and digged out ribs of gold. Let none admire the riches grow in hell, that soil may best deserve his precious being. And here let those who boast immortal things and wondering tell of Babel and the works of Methian kings learn how the greatest monuments of fame and strength and art are easily outdone by spirits reprobate, and in an hour, when in an age they, with incessant toil and hands innumerable, scarce perform. Nigh on the plain, in many cells prepared, that underneath are things of liquid fire, seluced from the lake, with wondrous art found the mossy ore, severing each kind, and scummed the bullion dross. A third as soon appeared from within the ground, a various mode, and boiling cells, by strange conveyance filled each hollow nook, as in an organ, from one blast of wind, in many cells prepared, and anon, from one blast of wind, in many cells prepared, anon out of the earth. To many rove pipes the soundboard breathes, anon out of the earth a fabric huge rose like an exaltation, to the voices, to noise, sound of Deuce's symphonies and voices sweet, where Philestus round was set, and Doric pillars overlaid with the golden architrave. Nor did they want corners of freeness, with bossy sculptures graven. The roof was fretted gold, nor Babylon nor great Alcaria such magnificence equaled in all their glories to enshrined Belias or Cephas their gods, or seat their kings, when Egypt with a serious growth in wealth and luxury, the ascending pile, stood fixed her stately height. Then strict the doors, opening her brazen foes discover, wide within, with ample spaces through the smooth and level pavement, and from the arched roof, pendant by subtle magic, on which a row of starry lamps and blazing crescents fed, with Nympha and Asphaltus, yielded light as from the sky. The hasty multitude admiring entered, the work some praise, and some the architect. His hand was known in heaven by many towers structured high, where sceptred angels held their residence and stood as princes, whom the supreme king exalted such power and gave to rule, each in his hierarchy. Nor was his name unheard or unadored in ancient Greece, or in Ausonian land. Men called him Beelzebub. How he fell from heaven they fabled, thrown by angry Jove, sheer over the crystal battlements. From morn to noon he fell, from noon to dewy eve, a summer's day, with the setting sun, dropped from the zenith like a falling star on Lemnos and the Agrian Isles. Thus they relate erring. He with his rebellious rout fell long before, nor aught availed him now to have built in heaven high towers, nor did he escape by all his engines, but was headlong sent with his industrious crew to build in hell. Meanwhile the winged Herods, by command of sovereign power, with awful ceremony and trumpet sound, throughout the host proclaim a solemn council forthwith to be held at Pandemonium, the high capital of Satan and his peers, with from every band and squared regiment, by place of choice the worthiest, they anon with hundreds and thousands trooping came. All access was thronged, the gates and porches wide, but chief the spacious hall, though all the covered field where champions bold, one ride and armed, and at the Soldan's chair defy the best of Paynim chivalry to mortal combat or career with lance. Thick swarmed both on the ground and in the air, brushed with the hiss of rustling wings, as when bees in springtime, as when the sun with Taurus rides, pour forth their populous youth about the hive in clusters. He through the flowers, dewy and flowers, fly to and through fresh dews and flowers, fly to and fro, on the plank, the suburb of the straw-billed kitedel, new wrought with balm, expatiate and confer the state affairs. So thick the airy crowd, swarm and was straitened, till as signal given, behold a wonder. They but now who seemed in bigness to surpass Earth's giant suns, now less than smallest dwarfs, in narrow room, thorn numberless, like the Pygmean race, beyond the Indian mount of fairy elves, whose midnight revels by forest side or fountain, some belated pheasant sees or dreams he sees, while overhead the moon sits arbitress, till nearer to the earth, till nearer to the earth, wheels her pale course, and great mirth he with his mirth and dance, with jocund music charm his ear, at once with fear and joy his heart rebounds. Thus incorporeal spirits in smallest forms reduce their shapes immense, and were large, though without number, still miss the hall of the infernal court, but far within, in their own dimensions, like themselves, the great seraphic lords and cherubim, in close recess and secret conclave set, 1,000 demigods in golden seats, put forth in full, but 1,000 demigods in golden seats, put forth in full, their summons read, the great consult began. Okay. Yeah. Okay. So that was book one, the entirety of book one of Paradise Lost from memory. And feel free to point out mistakes that I've made. Until then, see you next time. Bye-bye, everybody. Don't forget to click like and remember to subscribe.